Most people will never set foot in these locations, and the ones who have often didn't make it back. From boiling lakes to radioactive wastelands, these are places where nature and circumstance have made human survival nearly impossible. Here are 20 places on Earth too dangerous for humans. North Yungas Road, Bolivia. Carved into the side of the Bolivian mountains in the 1930s, North Yungas Road stretches 64 kilometers through the Andes and drops more than 3,500 meters into the Amazon basin below. The road was built largely by Paraguayan prisoners of war, and many died during its construction. From the very beginning, it was a road built on tragedy. At its narrowest, the road is just 3 meters wide, barely enough for a single vehicle. There are no guardrails, and sheer drops of up to 1,000 meters wait on the outer edge. Rain, fog, and mudslides are constant, and drivers once had to navigate two-way traffic on a path barely wide enough for one. In 1995, the Inter-American Development Bank declared it the most dangerous road in the world. At its peak, between 200 and 300 people died on this road every year. In 1983 alone, a bus went over the edge and killed more than 100 passengers in what remains Bolivia's worst road accident on record. Skeleton Coast, Namibia. The indigenous San people of Namibia called this place the land God made in anger. Portuguese sailors who first encountered it from the sea called it the Gates of Hell. The Skeleton Coast stretches roughly 500 kilometers along Namibia's northwest Atlantic coastline, and it has been killing people for centuries. The Benguela Current runs cold and fast along this shore, and dense fog rolls in from the ocean for much of the year. Ships have been getting wrecked here since at least the 1530s, and the coastline is now home to what is considered the world's largest ship graveyard, with at least 300 confirmed wrecks embedded in the sand. Sailors who survived their ships going down didn't fare much better on land. The desert behind the coast offers no fresh water, scorching heat, and predators including lions, hyenas, and jackals. Rainfall rarely exceeds 10 millimeters per year. Those who made it ashore quickly realized there was no way out. Great Blue Hole, Belize. Off the coast of Belize sits a giant marine sinkhole that stretches 300 meters across and drops 125 meters straight down. The Great Blue Hole was formed thousands of years ago when a limestone cave system collapsed beneath the sea. From above, it looks almost perfectly circular and eerily still. Below the surface, the conditions change fast. The water is stratified into layers, and below about 30 meters, oxygen levels drop sharply and visibility nearly disappears. Strong underwater currents around the rim have pulled experienced divers off course, and there is little room for error at depth. Several divers have died here, and 2 bodies were discovered inside the hole as recently as 2020. Caribbean reef sharks and bull sharks patrol the interior and the surrounding waters. Combined with the disorienting depth, powerful currents, and the very real risk of decompression sickness if a diver ascends too quickly, the Great Blue Hole is a place where even skilled divers have met their end. Amazon rainforest, Brazil. The Amazon rainforest covers more than 5.5 million square kilometers across South America and is the largest tropical rainforest on Earth. It contains around 10% of all species on the planet. It is also one of the most hostile environments a human being can enter without expert preparation. The forest is home to more venomous species than almost anywhere else on Earth. Bullet ants, whose sting is described as the most painful of any insect, are common. Poison dart frogs, electric eels, anacondas, and jaguars all share the same territory. Parasites, flesh-eating bacteria, and waterborne diseases are constant threats, and getting lost even a short distance from a known path can be fatal. Beyond the wildlife, the Amazon is an environmental trap. The canopy blocks sunlight, making navigation nearly impossible without equipment. Flash flooding is common, rivers rise without warning, and the humidity accelerates dehydration even when surrounded by water. Uncontacted tribes living deep in the forest have also attacked outsiders on sight, and some areas remain completely off-limits to outside entry. Lake Natron, Tanzania. Lake Natron sits in northern Tanzania at the base of an active volcano called Oldonyo. At first glance, the lake appears stunning. Its surface shimmers in shades of red, orange, and pink. But those colors come from the extreme alkalinity of the water, which has a pH close to 10.5, roughly the same as ammonia. The lake's water is so caustic, it can cause severe chemical burns to the skin and eyes of any animal that comes into contact with it. Temperatures in the lake can reach 60 degrees Celsius in places, and the water is loaded with sodium carbonate and other minerals leached from the surrounding volcanic rock. Animals that fall in are quickly calcified, their bodies hardening and preserved in place as the minerals coat them. The only creatures that thrive here are a single species of fish, salt-tolerant algae, and flamingos, which have adapted feet tough enough to wade through the shallows to breed. For humans, contact with the water is extremely dangerous, and the surrounding landscape, an active volcanic zone with periodic eruptions and toxic gas emissions, adds to the risk. Oymyakon, Russia. Oymyakon is a small village in the Sakha Republic of Eastern Russia, and it holds the record for the coldest temperature ever recorded in a permanently inhabited settlement. In 1933, temperatures dropped to minus 67.7 degrees Celsius. That is cold enough to freeze exposed skin in under a minute and cause fuel lines and mechanical equipment to fail without warning. Life here operates under conditions that would be fatal to most people within hours of exposure. Residents cannot grow crops because the ground is permafrost year-round. Cars are left running overnight because engines that stop will not restart in the cold. Even burying the dead is a challenge. The ground has to be thawed with hot coals before a grave can be dug. In winter, the sun rises for just a few hours a day, and temperatures routinely sit below minus 50 degrees Celsius for weeks at a time. Breathing the air can damage lung tissue, eyelashes freeze. The region is so isolated that the nearest major city, Yakutsk, is a 2-day drive away, itself one of the coldest cities on Earth. Darvaza Gas Crater, Turkmenistan. In the middle of the Karakum Desert in Turkmenistan, there is a hole in the ground roughly 70 meters wide that has been on fire for over 50 years. The Darvaza Gas Crater, known locally as the Door to Hell, was created in 1971 when a Soviet drilling operation caused the ground to collapse into an underground natural gas cavern. To prevent toxic methane from spreading, engineers set it alight, expecting it to burn out within weeks. The fire has never gone out. The crater sits in one of the most remote and barren stretches of Central Asia, surrounded by nothing but desert for hundreds of kilometers. Temperatures in the region regularly exceed 50 degrees Celsius in summer, and the crater itself radiates intense heat visible from a distance. The methane burning inside produces carbon dioxide and other toxic gases. Anyone who falls in cannot survive. The crater is roughly 30 meters deep, and the burning gas at the bottom creates temperatures no human body could withstand for a fraction of a second. Explorer George Kourounis descended into the crater in 2013 wearing a specialized heat-resistant suit and reported that the heat was nearly unbearable even with full protection. Mount Sinabung, Indonesia. Mount Sinabung is an active stratovolcano on the island of Sumatra in Indonesia, and it is one of the most unpredictable volcanoes on Earth. After lying dormant for around 400 years, it erupted suddenly in 2010 without warning. It has been erupting repeatedly ever since, with major events recorded in 2013, 2014, 2016, and 2021. The 2014 eruptions were among the most devastating. Pyroclastic flows, fast-moving rivers of superheated gas, ash, and rock raced down the mountain slopes at temperatures exceeding 700 degrees Celsius. 16 people were killed in a single event on February 1st, 2014, when a pyroclastic flow swept through nearby villages. Tens of thousands of residents have been permanently displaced from the exclusion zone surrounding the summit. The volcano remains active and continues to emit ash and toxic gases. The surrounding area within several kilometers of the summit is permanently off limits to civilians, and the Indonesian government has repeatedly extended evacuation orders. Scientists cannot reliably predict when the next major eruption will occur, making Sinabung one of the most consistently dangerous places on the planet. Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, Ukraine. On April 26, 1986, reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in northern Ukraine exploded during a safety test, releasing 400 times more radiation than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The explosion and subsequent fires burned for 10 days, contaminating vast areas of Europe with radioactive particles. Around 350,000 people were permanently evacuated from the region. The area within 30 kilometers of the reactor was declared an exclusion zone. The nearby city of Pripyat, which once housed around 50,000 people, was abandoned within 36 hours of the explosion and has remained empty ever since. Scientists have stated that the most heavily contaminated zones within the exclusion zone will not be safe for permanent human habitation for at least 24,000 years due to the long half-life of the radioactive isotopes present. Even today, radiation levels in certain hotspots within the exclusion zone remain dangerously high. Workers who enter require dosimeters, time limits, and protective equipment. In 2022, Russian forces occupied the zone during their invasion of Ukraine, and the movement of military vehicles through the contaminated soil raised serious concerns about increased radiation exposure for both soldiers and the surrounding environment. Runit Island, Marshall Islands. During the 1940s and 1950s, the United States conducted 67 nuclear weapons tests in the Marshall Islands, an archipelago in the Central Pacific Ocean. The explosions released enormous amounts of radioactive contamination across the islands and surrounding ocean. One test, the Castle Bravo detonation in 1954, was the largest nuclear weapon ever detonated by the United States and was 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. On Runit Island, the U.S. military attempted to clean up some of the radioactive debris by scraping contaminated soil and dumping it, along with the remains of nuclear material, into an unlined bomb crater. A concrete dome was then built over the top. It is 45 centimeters thick and covers an estimated 73,000 cubic meters of radioactive waste. It was never designed to be a permanent solution. The dome is cracking. As sea levels rise due to climate change, seawater has been found pooling inside it. Scientists have warned that continued degradation of the structure could release radioactive material into the Pacific Ocean. The Marshall Islands government has called it a coffin and pleaded for international assistance. Runit Island itself is uninhabitable, and the surrounding atolls remain heavily contaminated. Death Valley, USA. Death Valley, located on the border of California and Nevada, holds the record for the highest air temperature ever reliably recorded on Earth. On July 10, 1913, the temperature at Furnace Creek reached 56.7 degrees Celsius, 134 degrees Fahrenheit. Summer temperatures regularly exceed 49 degrees Celsius, and the ground surface itself can reach over 93 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cause third-degree burns through footwear. The valley sits below sea level. At its lowest point, it is 86 meters below the ocean surface, and the surrounding mountains trap hot air in the basin, creating a natural oven with no escape. Rain barely exists here, averaging less than 50 millimeters per year. In 2017, a tourist suffered third-degree burns after walking barefoot on the ground for a matter of seconds. Rangers regularly respond to calls from hikers who have become incapacitated from heat exhaustion in the middle of the day. The valley is also home to rattlesnakes, scorpions, black widow spiders, and mountain lions. Dehydration can set in faster than most people expect, and the nearest hospitals are hours away. Between 2007 and 2024, over 4,200 people died across U.S. national park sites, and Death Valley consistently records some of the highest numbers of heat-related incidents. North Sentinel Island, India. North Sentinel Island sits in the Andaman Sea as part of India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands. It is approximately 60 square kilometers in size and is home to the Sentinelese people, one of the last uncontacted tribes on Earth. The tribe has lived in complete isolation from the outside world for an estimated 60,000 years and has made clear, repeatedly and violently, that they want no contact with outsiders. Any boat or aircraft that approaches the island is met with a shower of arrows and spears. In 2006, 2 fishermen whose boat drifted close to the shore while they slept were killed by the Sentinelese. Their bodies could not be recovered. In 2018, American missionary John Allen Chow illegally entered the island and was killed shortly after landing. The Indian government does not prosecute violent acts committed by the Sentinelese against trespassers. The Indian government has enforced a strict exclusion zone around the island, prohibiting boats from coming within 3 nautical miles of the shore. The law is designed to protect both outsiders and the Sentinelese, who have no immunity to outside diseases and could be wiped out by contact with a common cold. The island remains one of the most genuinely inaccessible places on Earth. Snake Island, Brazil. Ilha de Queimada Grande, known as Snake Island, sits about 33 kilometers off the coast of São Paulo, Brazil. The island is small, just 43 hectares, but it is home to one of the most venomous snakes in the world, the golden lancehead pit viper. This species exists nowhere else on Earth. Its venom can cause rapid tissue death, internal bleeding, and organ failure. Estimates of the snake population vary, but researchers have suggested there is roughly 1 snake per square meter in some areas of the island. The snakes evolved to be so deadly because they prey on migratory birds, a meal that can escape quickly, and needed venom potent enough to kill near instantly. The golden lancehead's venom is reported to be up to 5 times more potent than its closest mainland relative. The Brazilian government has banned all civilian access to the island. Only authorized researchers with medical support are permitted to land, and even they operate under strict protocols. The last lighthouse keeper stationed on the island, before it was automated, is said to have been killed by the snakes, along with his entire family. Whether that story is true or legend, the Brazilian Navy takes no chances. Dallol, Ethiopia. Dallol is a hydrothermal field in the Danakil depression of northern Ethiopia, and it holds the record for the highest average annual temperature of any inhabited location on Earth. Though calling it inhabited is generous, the average daily temperature sits around 34 to 35 degrees Celsius year-round, but surface temperatures in the geothermal zones regularly exceed that by a significant margin. The landscape at Dallol looks like something from another planet. Bright yellow, green, and orange pools of acid bubble across the surface, fed by underground hydrothermal activity. The pools have a pH close to 0, more acidic than battery acid. Hydrogen sulfide and other toxic gases vent continuously from the ground, and the entire area sits at roughly 130 meters below sea level, one of the lowest points on Earth's surface. In 2019, a study published in the journal Nature, Ecology, and Evolution confirmed that no microbial life could survive in the most acidic and hypersaline pools at Dallol, making it one of the few places on Earth too extreme even for bacteria. For humans, the combination of acid pools, toxic gases, extreme heat, and the remote location of the Danakil Depression makes Dallol genuinely lethal without expert support. Boiling Lake, Dominica. The Boiling Lake sits inside Morne Trois Pitons National Park on the Caribbean island of Dominica, and it is exactly what the name suggests. It is a flooded volcanic fumarole, a crack in the Earth's crust through which magma heats the water above. At its edges, the temperature ranges from 82 to 92 degrees Celsius. At the center, it cannot be measured because the water is at a full, violent boil. The lake is the second largest boiling lake in the world, stretching roughly 60 meters across. In 1900, 2 members of a hiking party died near the lake after being overcome by a sudden release of volcanic gases. The lake has drained and refilled multiple times throughout recorded history, and each time it does, scientists cannot predict whether the transition from cold to boiling will happen gradually or instantaneously. In 2016, Dominica's authorities closed the site entirely when water levels began dropping unexpectedly. Getting to the lake requires an 8-mile round-trip hike through steep, unstable terrain, crossing rivers and navigating trails that have been partially destroyed by landslides. Since 2026, a guide is legally required for the hike. Even with one, the risks from toxic gas emissions, scalding water, and unpredictable volcanic activity make the boiling lake one of the most dangerous natural features in the Western Hemisphere. Mount Everest Death Zone, Nepal, China. Mount Everest on the border of Nepal and China is the highest point on Earth at 8,849 meters above sea level. The upper portion of the mountain, above 8,000 meters, is known as the Death Zone. At this altitude, there is less than 1/3 of the oxygen available at sea level, and the human body begins to deteriorate faster than it can recover, regardless of fitness level. In the death zone, the brain swells, the lungs fill with fluid, and judgment becomes severely impaired. Frostbite can set in within minutes of exposed skin making contact with the air. Temperatures can drop below -40 degrees Celsius, and winds regularly exceed 200 kilometers per hour. Between 1922 and the end of the 2022 climbing season, approximately 310 people died on Everest. Many of their bodies remain on the mountain. The conditions make recovery nearly impossible. The mountain is littered with landmarks named after the dead. There are over 200 bodies still frozen on Everest's slopes, some of which have become navigation markers for climbers on their way up. Even with bottled oxygen, modern gear, and experienced guides, the death zone remains a place where the human body is simply not designed to survive, and where survival comes down to a matter of hours. Danakil Depression, Ethiopia. The Danakil Depression in northeastern Ethiopia is one of the lowest, hottest, and most geologically active places on Earth. It sits at the junction of 3 tectonic plates, the African, Arabian, and Somali plates, which are slowly pulling apart from one another. This constant geological movement means the ground here is never truly stable. Temperatures regularly reach 50 degrees Celsius, and the area contains active volcanoes, boiling acid pools, and geysers that emit toxic sulfur dioxide and other gases. The springs at Dallol, which sit within the Danakil Depression, have a pH of around 0.2. The entire region averages fewer than 25 millimeters of rain per year, and the Afar people who have lived here for generations are considered among the most resilient populations in the world. Erda Ale, an active volcano within the depression, contains one of only a handful of permanent lava lakes on Earth. Getting to the Danakil Depression requires armed escort. The region borders Eritrea and has seen violent incidents involving tourists in the past decade. Scientists study the area as an analog for life on Mars, and in 2016, researchers found that microbes could survive in the extreme conditions, though they noted that the environment pushes the limits of what life can endure anywhere on Earth. Vozrozhdeniya Island, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. Vozrozhdeniya Island, also known as Rebirth Island or Anthrax Island, sits in what remains of the Aral Sea on the border between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. From 1936 to 1992, the Soviet Union used it as the primary open-air testing site for biological weapons. Agents including anthrax, smallpox, plague, tularemia, and brucellosis were detonated in the open air and tested on live animals. The program employed over 50,000 people across dozens of facilities at its peak. In 1971, a field test of weaponized smallpox caused an outbreak that killed at least 3 civilians in the nearby city of Aralsk. The incident was covered up by the Soviet government for over 30 years. When the site was abandoned in 1992, following the collapse of the USSR. Scientists and soldiers left within weeks, taking little with them. Between 100 and 200 tons of anthrax spores were dumped into shallow pits and left with no ongoing monitoring. The Aral Sea has since largely dried up, and Vozrozhdeniya is no longer a true island. It is now connected to the mainland. That means the anthrax burial pits, some of which have been found leaking, are now theoretically accessible on foot. In 2002, the United States funded a $6 million cleanup of 10 anthrax sites on the island. Scientists have confirmed that anthrax spores can remain viable in soil for decades. What remains underneath the ground at Vozrozhdeniya is still not fully known. Campi Flegrei, Italy. Just west of Naples in southern Italy lies one of the most dangerous volcanic systems on the planet. Campi Flegrei, which translates to burning fields, is a supervolcano spanning an 8-mile-wide caldera that sits directly beneath a densely populated urban area. More than 500,000 people live within the high-risk red zone around the caldera, with nearly 3 million people in the wider Naples metropolitan area. Around 39,000 years ago, Campi Flegrei produced one of the largest eruptions in European history, ejecting 72 cubic miles of molten rock. Global temperatures dropped, and volcanic ash covered Europe and parts of Russia. Scientists believe that eruption may have played a role in the decline of Neanderthal populations. The volcano last erupted in 1538, forming a new hill in just 2 days. Since 2022, earthquake activity has intensified sharply, with scientists detecting over 54,000 tremors between 2022 and 2025, including a magnitude 4.4 earthquake in 2025, the strongest in 40 years. The Italian government classifies Campi Flegrei as a national threat. If a major eruption were to occur, pyroclastic flows traveling at up to 100 kilometers per hour and reaching temperatures of around 800 degrees Celsius would give residents virtually no time to escape. Scientists have not confirmed an imminent eruption, but the volcano is currently at an elevated alert level, and the evacuation of over 500,000 people from one of Italy's most congested areas remains one of the most complex emergency scenarios in Europe. Challenger Deep, Mariana Trench, Pacific Ocean. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific Ocean lies the deepest point on Earth, Challenger Deep. It sits approximately 10,984 meters below sea level. If Mount Everest were placed inside the trench, its summit would still be more than a mile underwater. No sunlight reaches this depth. The temperature hovers just above freezing, and the pressure is over 1,000 times greater than at the surface. That pressure, more than 1,000 atmospheres, would crush an unprotected human body instantly. Even specialized deep-sea submersibles require extraordinarily thick titanium hulls to withstand the force. As of the time of writing, fewer than 20 people have ever descended to Challenger Deep. By comparison, more people have traveled to space. The journey to the bottom takes several hours each way, and any equipment failure at that depth is unsurvivable. Despite these conditions, life exists. Snailfish, amphipods, and other creatures have adapted to survive in total darkness, near freezing temperatures, and crushing pressure. Scientists have also found microplastics at the bottom of the trench, a testament to how far human pollution has reached. Challenger Deep is the most remote and extreme environment on Earth's surface, a place that, for all practical purposes, remains beyond the reach of any human being without one of the most advanced machines ever built. These 20 locations exist on the same planet where people live ordinary lives, and yet they represent conditions so extreme that human survival becomes nearly impossible. Some are the result of geological forces that have been building for millions of years. Others are the result of decisions made by governments that left behind problems no one has fully solved. What connects them all is simple. The planet does not accommodate human beings in every corner it contains. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more beyond belief facts, click on the video appearing on your screen now and remember to hit the subscribe button.